So many high earners are great at hitting big financial milestones like retirement, planning for the second home, taking that big retirement vacation with the grandkids. But a lot of times where they struggle is in the short term goals that come before that. And even bigger than that is financial advisors often overlook helping their clients plan for these short term goals. That's why today on the Wealth Cafe, we are going to spend some time talking about A, what are a lot of these short term financial goals, and B, how do you prepare and plan for them as a high earner or a high net worth family? And why is this even important? Well, as we are preparing for 2026, I want to make sure that you are thinking about all of the things that you want to do in the new year and also in the next 3 to 5 years. I'll loop in some of these big goals. Now, let's break down and start with what are some of these shorter term financial goals. And to help you name a few, depending on where you are in your life, it could be anything from planning your wedding or a kid's wedding or maybe even your grandkids' wedding. It could be looking at purchasing a home, putting in a down payment. Maybe you're looking to do an expansion, things that you have for cash flow needs within the next 3 years, maybe even the next 5 years, depending on how much cash you are going to need and how you are feeling about the markets in the coming years. Let's talk about 5 steps that you can take today in order to help you prepare for these shorter term goals. The first thing I want you to do is actually get out a journal. Write down what you see coming up for the next 3 years and really get specific. Is it everything from, hey, we're going to be needing a new car, the kids are going to be going to college, we're going to have to be putting that down payment down? And also think outside of yourself, what bigger family obligations are you going to have? As I mentioned before, maybe your grandkids are expecting for you to help with their wedding or help with their college tuition. Whatever it is, make sure that you understand what you want to be paying for and what other financial obligations you foresee coming within the next 36 months so you understand what cash are you going to need on hand. What I also like to do whenever I'm doing these exercises, either for myself or with clients, is then give myself a guesstimate on both how much I think this item is going to cost and how much I am willing to put towards it. If it's something like a car, for example, let's say you are looking at purchasing a new Audi and you are seeing, okay, the Audi Q5 is looking to be in the used price range of $45,000. I am going to budget for the $45,000, but I understand that, due to inventory, demand, different costs, it could end up being a little more costly. I'm willing to be spending up to 52 grand. And so that way you have that bracket and those barriers around it so you understand and have some leeway, because we have things like inflation, market downturn, things that could impact, and you want to be prepared in case pricing changes and you are ready for the moment when the time comes. Number 2, after you get clear on what you are willing to spend, I want you to have open communication, whether it is with your family members, whether that's your partner, your spouse, your children, whether even if they are grown adults and grandkids, have open communication with them about what you are willing to spend and understand what they are expecting you to spend so you can get clear on those estimates. And you need to also make sure you are then communicating these amounts to your financial team so they can help you prepare for them. If you are going to be needing cash in the short term and in the future, you never want to make sure this money is invested right now, because let's say we have another March of 2020 where markets drop significantly and then you don't have that, back to our Audi example, that 52,000 or on the lower end, that 45,000 ready for the moment you need it to. You need to make sure you are communicating with those around you about your financial obligations, what you are willing to spend, and also with your financial team so they are prepared to help you and guide you as well. Number 3, you should also be working with your financial team on, rather than just having this money sitting in cash in your typical savings or checking accounts, where does it make sense to actually have this money? As I mentioned before, your typical market is not going to be the right place for something that you need in the shorter term. However, depending on when you need this money and the level of flexibility you need behind this money, does it make sense to have this in something like a CD or a high yield savings or something like a bond ladder? These are conversations you need to have with your financial team, and make sure you are communicating with them how much access you need to have for this money. Number 4, keep in mind any lump sums of money that might be coming into your pockets during this time frame. Examples of this might be, do you have RSUs that are vesting during this time period that you would want to use to fund these short-term financial goals? Do you have bonuses that are paying out quarterly or annually that you know are a guarantee that are going to be coming in during this time that you are willing to put towards these financial goals? Or are you going to be receiving some type of inheritance or payment that has been stalled that you know is going to be paid out during this time frame? I keep saying that you know that is going to be paid out during this time frame because I want to put the emphasis on you have to have this money prepared and ready. And if it's not, what are things that you're going to do? Are you willing to delay these goals, shift, pivot, whatever it might be? Because if you have something, let's go with the inheritance example, let's say that doesn't come to fruition during this time frame, where are you going to be pulling different funds? This typically isn't a situation you want to be in, so I want to make sure these are places and funds you know you are going to be getting income from, and it's not something that you're hoping and praying you're going to be getting a check in the mail during this time. Number 5, make sure you are looking at the tax consequences for any moves and financial moves you are making during this time. This is when you should be looping in both your tax accountant and your financial advisor to talk with them and say, hey, if I'm going to be using things like a bonus, like RSUs, or selling any type of stock, even in this moment, to make sure it is safe for these short-term goals and to have ready in a couple of years, what type of tax consequences do I need to be prepared for? How do I manage my expectations? And how do we then, if we are going to have any tax consequences, what do those look like? Because if you are expecting something like a 20% tax, you then need to have well above, going back to our car example, above that $45,000 to $52,000 in order to make sure after taxes you have the money that you actually need for these short-term goals. Typically, when we are talking about these short-term goals, these are things that you are not just paying out of pocket for. These are things that are bigger than your washer and dryer going. It is things that could typically disrupt your cash flow and that we want to be ready for. They are things that you need to be thinking about now, and this is the perfect time to do so as we are ending the year and as we are preparing for a new year. So I encourage you that as you are looking at your 2026 goals, this is the perfect time to schedule a meeting with your financial team to talk to them about your short-term goals and also your long-term goals. See how all of this fits into your financial picture. If you are prioritizing short-term goals, how does that impact your financial plan? What tax consequences do you need to be aware for? And how do you prepare for these big short-term moments? And how could they potentially disrupt your financial plan? And how do we make sure that you are prepared for them from a liquidity standpoint and to make sure you have the cash ready when the moment arises? Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Wealth Cafe, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.